American Revolution Museum at Yorktown. My name is Sarah and I work at the Revolution Era Farm. And today we've got an unboxing planned. Everyone loves unboxing videos. And so what I'm unboxing for the farm is some of our supplies for spring gardening. It's getting ready to be planting season and we do all the gardening out there at our Revolution Era Farm. So I'm going to be unboxing some of the stuff that we need to get that accomplished. Hang out with us for a little while and you'll get to see some of this stuff as we unpack. Alright, so first thing I'm going to open, hopefully this is a packet of seeds, because it's in a really small envelope. Yes, seeds! So one of the things that we do at our Revolution Era Farm is we try to source from several different places heirloom, non-GMO seeds for our garden. And a lot of things, a lot of people don't realize that just because a seed packet says it's heirloom does not guarantee that it is heirloom to a certain time period. So it actually takes a lot of research and a lot of effort on our part to make sure that we are sourcing and planting the closest that we can get to what they would have had in the actual time period. And I have 2 seed packets here for yellow carrots. Yellow carrots would have been a little bit more common in the 18th century than they are today, just like white carrots and really just a variety of different colors because carrots did not originate as being orange. So I guess we'll move on to the next box now that I have my carrot seeds. This is something that every gardener needs to start out the season. If you are going to plant your own seedlings, like starting in a greenhouse and not directly sowing your seeds in the ground, these are really useful. These are small little peat pots. So when you put your seed starter mix in there, you can put your seeds in, put it in a greenhouse, put it in just a warm place in your house in the window, and you can get your seeds started in the ideal environment and let them harden off a little bit before you plant them outside in the garden. And that's really useful in the springtime, especially here in coastal Virginia. Our springtime weather can be a little erratic, and it's really helpful to get things started ahead of time and then put it in the ground. Another thing that we struggle with out here is something that they would have had a problem with in the 18th century. They would have had deer and rabbits and groundhogs and things that would come through and attack their fields and their gardens and things like that. One of the things that they would be able to do to combat that problem would be just shoot the pests and turn them into dinner. But we don't do that here, of course. So we start the stuff ahead of time in some instances. If it has a short germination and it gets pretty hardy fairly quickly, then we'll direct sow it in the garden. And that way, once the seedlings have gained a little bit of substance, they're not as vulnerable, and that's when we'll go on and plant them out in the field or in the garden, as it were. So, peat pots, useful for every gardener. Ooh, and there's some other treasures in this box. I've got more heirloom seeds. These ones are, what are these? I don't remember specifically ordering these. Sometimes you get seed bonuses. But this actually could be woad. Alright, looks like we have some multicolored plant stakes. This is helpful for labeling your peat pots and your seed trays when you're starting them outside of the garden. And that way you won't, a lot of seedlings look the same, and that way you won't lose track of what you planted. So I got these multicolored ones so that I can color code where these plants are going to go. I can pick a color that's going to be the kitchen garden. I can pick a color that's going to be the herb garden or the dye garden or even the enslaved folks garden. And that way we can color code things and it'll be more organized for where stuff's going to go at the end of the day. So going coming back to the pest problem that we have, a little bit later in the springtime, we're going to be planting corn in the field. And corn and our orchard are usually very vulnerable to attack by squirrels. And we are never going to be able to get rid of all the squirrels, so we use this stuff called Squirrel Mace, and there's bunches of different brands that make something similar. It doesn't hurt the squirrels at all. It just is a blend, in this instance, of peppermint oil, cinnamon, spearmint oil, castor oil, and garlic. Essentially, it irritates their nose. They smell it. They think it smells terrible. They run away. They don't eat the corn. They don't eat the fruit in the orchard. That's the goal. So this stuff is pretty useful, and we're definitely going to make good use of it to save the field. Right, another box down. All right. Ooh, this one's heavy. This is a box full of stuff that smells weird. How fun. Going right off of the same thing that we just talked about with the squirrel repellent, we also get a separate type of dry granule that's an animal repellent. This really helps us protect our cotton when we plant it in the field, and some of our other field crops, because the deer will eat it. Believe it or not, deer eat a lot of different things. They eat cotton. Believe it or not, people don't eat cotton, but deer do, especially when it's small and tender. So we sprinkle this dry stuff. Again, it's no kind of like chemical that will injure the animal or anything. It just smells terrible and it makes them want to leave it alone. And we find this to be pretty successful for our farm. And so we bought it in bulk this time. We tend to use a lot of it. I've got 6 bottles of this stuff because throughout the whole spring and summer, we will be using a ton of it. You pretty much have to sprinkle it out again every time it rains. Or if it's been out there for a couple of weeks, it starts losing the potent smell that it has and it stops being effective. So this right here, I am not sponsored by Miracle-Gro at all. This is going to be the first year that we are using Miracle-Gro specifically to supplement the nutrients in our garden. I'm getting the Performance Organics this time around. Of course, people in the 18th century did not have Miracle-Gro. One of the things that they would do if the nutrients in their soil got exhausted in any given particular place would be to just pick up a garden or pick up a field and move it to another area. And the previous area would be left to lay fallow for a certain amount of time. For tobacco, it could take as many as 20 years of laying fallow to go from completely being depleted to being completely back to normal again. And since we don't have the 200 acres that a middling farmer would have in order to do that, we have to supplement with a little bit of fertilizer. We try to do natural compost as much as possible, but it's getting to the point where our farm has been at the same place for about 5 years now, and natural compost can only go so far. So we're going to try this Miracle-Gro system this year, and it's completely organic, so still staying with, you know, the spirit of the 18th century that they didn't have any modern chemicals to put on stuff. So we're going to see how this works, and maybe we'll make another video later in the season and let you know how it's going so far. Let us know in the comments if that's something you'd be interested in. All right, the last thing in this box is just some bigger pots for seedlings. These are plastic pots. I tried to stay away from plastic as much as possible. I know plastic is terrible for the environment, but we will reuse these and reuse these until they can no longer be reused, and then we'll recycle them. And they're just bigger than those smaller peat pots because some plants, they get a lot of root system developing, and they can get something that's called being root bound in a small pot like those peat pots. And so we will move them to a larger pot before they're ready to go out into the field or the gardens. And it just gives their root system a little bit more time to develop and gives them more room to grow before you put them out there. So a lot of these, probably 100 of these 5 or 6 inch plastic pots. Okay, so moving right along, we've got one of our other packages in this shipment, and I'm interested to see what's in this box. I have a good idea what's in the bottom 2 boxes. Ooh, this is the rest of our Miracle-Gro system. I got these little square boxes of stuff that go in the water hose feeder to kind of feed in water at the same time. I also got something else that we have used different brands in the past. We're not super picky about that as long as it's organic. This stuff is good to sprinkle in when you're starting a new row in the garden. You kind of break it up with a hand tool like a hoe. You sprinkle this stuff in there and you form your row again, and it is water-soluble dry granules. So as you water it in and it gets natural rainfall and stuff like that, this kind of blends in more with the soil, but it's like a shake and feed, sort of a fertilizer that we'll do when we are planting a new row. And then the little boxes of water-soluble feed will generally speaking go when we do the watering with the water hoses in the morning before the visitors get here. So again, we're going to keep our garden really well fed and increase some of our yields, because we actually do use a lot of the vegetables that we grow in our garden for some of our cooking demonstrations, and I think it'd be really good to increase our yields so we can be more self-sufficient and therefore more historically accurate. So we've got, let's see, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of these boxes of water-soluble stuff and 2 of these bottles of shake and feed. All right, and so these last 2 boxes are one of the ones that I'm most excited about in our shipment. We got some metal shelving units to put inside our portable greenhouse. We have one of those like collapsible greenhouses that has a metal frame and kind of like this plastic tarp stuff that goes over it. And we hide it out of sight from visitors so that it is behind the scenes and it doesn't ruin your idea of what an 18th century farm would look like. And that's where we'll start our seedlings for a lot of things that don't go directly into the garden. A lot of root vegetables, for instance, they go directly into the garden because it's bad to disrupt the root system of a root vegetable to transplant it. Not impossible, it's just not really great. So yeah, these are our little narrow shelving units. It's gonna be, I don't know, 5 or 6 of these shelves, and they will fit nicely inside our little greenhouse. And we'll be able to organize our little peat pots and things on here so that we can maintain them and keep them labeled and just take really good care of our stuff before you put it in the garden. All right, and so that is the end of our shipment today. We've got 2 of these shelves, so the second box is just another set of shelves. Nothing exciting there, but it is not all of our shipment by any means. We've got tons more seeds coming in, so if you like what you saw today and you want to learn a little bit more about the seeds that we grow and how they're sourced and all of that and some of the research that goes into it, just like and comment down in the box below, and definitely hit the notification bell to subscribe to our channel. Thanks for joining us today, and be sure to come and visit us in person at the American Revolution Museum in Yorktown and our sister museum, Jamestown Settlement.